Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 3 of Culture Break. I'm Kathleen Brown, Senior Practice Leader, and I've got with me today, I'm delighted to introduce Mary Kershaw, who is CEO of the Museum of Northern Arizona, someone with whom we worked a number of times. And I'd like to welcome you, Mary. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you for inviting me, Kathleen. It's lovely to be here.
What was your path? How did you come to this post? How did you get here from where you started?
Well, Kathleen, I think like a lot of people in museums, it was not a straight path. So I grew up in Philadelphia and visited museums, wonderful museums in Philadelphia, visited with my sister, who is a practicing artist and was an art student. So visiting museums with an art student is just so enjoyable. So museums were about enjoyment and learning and opening new worlds to me from an early age. Museums were part and parcel of my life. I've been a director in museums for a long time. I came to the Museum of Northern Arizona here in Flagstaff in 2019, and I have had the good fortune to be executive director and CEO here since that time.
What were you thinking at the time? Why were you thinking, gee, here we are, the pandemic's hit, we need to undertake strategic planning, we need to get Lord on board? What was your thinking about that? And what were some of your motivations for that rationale?
Well, you're quite right. I had been here a very short time when the pandemic hit. And what that demonstrated to me was what a great leadership team we have here at the museum, because we were able to really just come together and make the kind of quick decisions that were needed to be made, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. But what it also gave us was a little bit of breathing space to think about the museum and what we want it to be and what its future will be. One real motivating factor is M&A will be 100 years old in 2028. So a centennial is a really important moment in time for a museum. And M&A is a museum of many parts. And what I thought was needed and why strategic planning was important as we look to the centennial, thinking about what we would become and how those many different parts would come together and be aligned to moving in the same direction. And that was something that I heard from my staff that they felt was very important. And so it seemed, with the centennial approaching and actually with the pandemic making us rethink many things, it was a great moment. And having known the reputation of Lord Cultural Resources for a long time, and having worked in detail with you all when I was in Santa Fe, what I really was aiming for was someone to bring in a big picture of the potential of museums, and also someone who had a breadth of experience of museum subjects, because as you know, we deal with fine art, visual art, cultural materials, archaeology, natural history, whole raft of subjects here, and how to bring those together in a common direction was a really important part of the strategic plan.
What were some of the things that you did to ensure that you had that consultative approach and that inclusion that you were looking for?
That was probably the bit that took the most thinking about before we embarked on the project. And I wanted to make sure that we had a broad representation of the areas of interest of the museum and that we had internal buy-in. But I also wanted to make sure that we had a group that could really move a project along successfully. So we put together a strategic advisory group that was board and staff from a variety of different perspectives, who worked very closely with yourself and the team from Lord, but then also looked at how do we connect with our broader communities. And as we're a place-based institution and we have multiple partnerships, those communities are numerous. And so engaging them in a variety of different types of consultation, really tailored to the different type of engagement they have with M&A, I think got us a really broad perspective on what we could be thinking about for a strategic plan, and also most importantly, helped so many different people feel as though they have had an input in the direction of our future.
What were some of the outcomes of your strategic planning process and how that is setting you up for the next 100 years? Maybe talk to us a little bit about those outcomes. I know that the document that we helped you with and that you produced is a really beautiful as well as information rich document. Maybe tell us, there you got it. All right, excellent. Wonderful. So what are things that you're most excited about, the outcomes moving forward?
The most exciting thing for me is that we have a comprehensive mission and vision that people are aligned around. And it's broad enough to encompass the wide range of activities, but focused enough to make sure that we are all moving in the same direction. And so for me particularly, reaffirming our commitment to being a museum about the Colorado Plateau and of the Colorado Plateau, which is an amazing part of the world. But particularly the idea that we are about science, art, and culture and connecting them to people, place, and time. Because that's something we are really well placed to do. It helps us integrate all of our activities and thinking. But it's also about what life is like. That's how all of us experience life. We experience place and time and people all at the same time. And culture, art, science, we don't divide them in our brains. We just experience them all at the same time. So I feel that it really gives us a strong way to connect what is our passion with who are our communities. And so I'm very excited about that.
Thanks so much for being with us today, Mary. Really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing what's next for the museum, and I'll get a chance to do that in a couple of months. So signing off today from Flagstaff and from North Vancouver, where I am. We'll see you next time on Culture Break. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.